They spent 20 years picking him over me. Then he burned everything down and they came crawling. My parents have two children. For the first 26 years of my life, you would not have known that by watching them. My brother Stellan was the one with the gravitational pull. Taller, louder, faster to charm a room, and slower to face consequences. My parents oriented toward him the way sunflowers orient toward light, not as a choice, exactly, but as something closer to reflex. His failures were reframed as learning experiences. His cruelties were excused as passion. When he dropped out of his first university program, my father called it a pivot. When he borrowed money from my mother and did not return it, she described it as an investment in his potential. When he told me, at my own graduation dinner, that my degree was in a field nobody respected, my parents laughed with the discomfort of people who found him funny even when he wasn't. I left for a different city at 24. Not dramatically, no speech, no confrontation, no declaration. I simply accepted a position that required relocation and relocated. I called home on birthdays and major holidays and kept the calls to a length that felt honest rather than performative. I built things in that other city, a career in urban planning that grew steadily and then quickly. A network of people who knew me only as myself, unfiltered through the lens of how I compared to Stellan. An apartment I furnished slowly and with intention, one good piece at a time, until it looked like somewhere a person had chosen to live rather than landed by default. I did not spend those years angry. I want to be precise about that. Anger requires a kind of ongoing attention I had decided to redirect. What I felt instead was a clean, workable indifference, not coldness, but the emotional equivalent of closing a tab you no longer need open. Stellan's unraveling arrived in stages, which is apparently how these things tend to go. A business venture that absorbed a significant portion of my parents' retirement savings before collapsing with considerable legal untidiness. A marriage that lasted under 2 years and produced a custody arrangement that cost my parents further money to help him navigate. A series of decisions that my father described to me, in a phone call that marked a significant tonal shift in our relationship, as difficult to defend. I listened. I did not say I told you so. I did not say it because it was too obvious to bother saying and because my father's voice had in it something I had not heard before, a particular exhaustion that comes not from events but from the revision of a long-held belief. My mother called the following week. She talked for a long time. She talked about how hard the years had been and how much they missed me and how they had always loved me, even when they had perhaps not always shown it with the clarity it deserved. I sat with the phone against my ear and looked out my window at the city I had built my life inside and let her talk. When she finished, I told her I appreciated her calling. I told her I loved them and that I was glad Stellan was getting help and that I hoped things stabilized. I told her I would visit in the spring. I did visit in the spring. It was careful and warm in the way of things that have been damaged and are being handled with new awareness of their fragility. My father hugged me at the door for longer than he had since I was a child. My mother had cooked things I had grown up eating, and the table was set with the good dishes she usually reserved for occasions she considered significant. I stayed for 4 days. Stellan was not there. That was not discussed, and I did not raise it. On the last morning, my father sat across from me at the kitchen table with his coffee and said, with the directness of someone who had been rehearsing, that he was sorry. Not for anything specific. For the shape of things over time. For what I had understood while he had been too busy confirming what he already believed to notice. I told him I heard him. I meant it. The drive back to my city took 6 hours. I stopped once for coffee and sat in the car park of a petrol station watching other people move through their ordinary Wednesday and thought about the strange, slow patience required to wait for people to see you clearly. Some people never manage it. My parents, it turned out, got there eventually. That is not everything. But on certain mornings, it is enough.